Well, thank you very much, gentlemen, for coming here today. It's a great opportunity to always bring a little bit of MWC out to this region here. And MWC is important for us because it's where we launch all of our portfolio. And the reason why we bring it out to the regions is because not everyone gets the opportunity to basically come out and go to Barcelona and see what we've got there to launch. We use it also to launch our latest in products, solutions, and this year, our brand. So you get to see the nice logo and all of the messaging that goes with it, which I'll tell you about a little bit later on. But as part of the introduction, I just wanted to show you the latest in the Nokia video messaging that's going to come through. And as part of that, then introduce you to the Finnish ambassador for Australia, and she'll give us a few words before handing over to the rest of the Nokia team. So let's just watch this video, and then we'll hand over to the ambassador.
We've been adapting to change for over 150 years. Now, we're driving the next evolution, where networks meet cloud, alive with intelligence, enabling people, machines, and devices to interact in real time like never before, and making high-performance connectivity more consumable, adaptable, autonomous, open to innovation, to collaboration, networks that sense, think, and act. Because by working together with service providers, enterprises, and the world, we can create a more sustainable, productive, accessible future by accelerating the impact of digital to reach people, places, and industries that have never been reached before. That demands more than change. That demands transformation. For us, that means pushing further with a clear vision and a new logo that symbolizes our purpose. Because it's only when all the right pieces act together that brilliance happens. The precision of tech leadership, the dynamism of a new digital era, and the kaleidoscopic colors of innovation. This is Nokia, but not as the world has seen us before. We've always connected people. Now, we create technology that helps the world act together.
Terrific, thank you. I'll leave the Q&A to the very end, but right now we'll take you through a series of presentations, and the first one up from Ambassador Sutton. Thank you very much. Please can I hand over to you? Thank you.
Good morning. Good morning. I'm very happy to be part of this Nokia Amplify event in Sydney. And for a small country like Finland, innovation is a necessity, and here I mean with small in terms of population. The population is around the same as in Sydney. To stay competitive in the global market, Finland must always be at the forefront of scientific and technological discovery. This means investing in everything from education to R&D, and as a result, Finland has developed strong technological competencies, and it's keen to share its experience in digital transformation. Nokia is a leading example of Finnish innovation. Nokia is an international company, but also a proud Finnish company that has been providing technological solutions for more than 100 years. And over those years, Nokia has proved resilient and adapted to an ever-changing world. Today, Nokia is not only a global leader in telecommunications, but also a pioneer in many emerging fields such as 5G, cloud computing, and AI. Last year, our Prime Ministers met here in Sydney to affirm a commitment to strengthen cooperation in areas of common interest, especially digitalisation, wireless communications technologies, high-performance computing, including AI and quantum, the data economy, and clean energy transition. We have again seen this commitment in the new Finnish government's program, naming Australia specifically in its call for a new approach to collaboration with like-minded countries. Finland and Australia both strive for a better and more sustainable future. One very real and concrete way that we see this cooperation taking place is Finland's largest company, Nokia. Nokia is a supplier of many telecommunications organizations in Australia, including the National Broadband Network for its fixed network technology solutions, Optus and TPG in the rollout of 5G, and Focus for its subsea systems. Nokia's technology also supports growth in major industries such as mining, agriculture, healthcare and transport. And these are all sectors where Finland hopes to further cooperate with Nokia. Before concluding, just a personal note, I had a chance to visit Oulu in August, and I was really, it was impressive to see, what Nokia is doing there with this laboratory, tech lab, and also at the Oulu University, they have these flagship projects in research of 6G, and Nokia and university are, of course, very closely cooperating. So it's definitely a town to visit if you go to Finland. So thank you very much, Nokia. Thank you very much for coming.
Okay. So I'm Andrew Cope. I'm the Managing Director for Nokia Oceania, so Australia, New Zealand and the Pacific Islands. I actually returned to Australia after 20 years abroad. It's quite exciting to be back and working with all the customers we have in Oceania. I was just reflecting a little bit myself. I've been in the industry for a long time, 20 or 30 years, and I left Australia some 20 years ago and started rolling out GSM phones in the Philippines and Bangladesh. It was the best time of my life. The impact, you really saw the impact you had on people's lives and people's well-being when you put affordable, reliable communications in their hand. It really changed their life. And during this stage, I went to Korea, and I'm going from this kind of business to the very top end of technology, and I was like, well, what do I do now? Where's the motivation? Where's the passion? But then I started to understand where the industry is going, where digitization is starting to take us. I started to understand the impact that, for example, an autonomous car would have on not just how we live, do we urbanize more, do we choose to live further away, but also the massive impact it would have on industries. Like, you've put the DHL business model out of business because there's no drivers anymore. You've killed the taxi industry. You've totally transformed opportunities for a positive side of things, because then you reskill the drivers, they take new jobs. And this is just one industry. I've seen recent work with John Deere tractors. They're talking about putting cameras on the boom sprays. So as they drive across the field, it analyzes the plant and it will tell you, is it a crop or a weed? And if it's a crop, shoot a bit of water. If it's a weed, shoot a bit of insecticide. Early trials, water savings is 90% compared to traditional irrigation. For a country like Australia or the US with intensive farming and drought issues, this is just incredibly transformative. And this is sort of found my working mojo again about, wow, this is really what we can change in the industry. And this is also a lot about what Nokia is and what Nokia does. And as we saw, as Pekka, our new CEO, came in, he sort of redefined what the company, I used to say to everyone, we were connecting people, but now we connect everything. But now we're going beyond connecting everything. We create technology that lets the world act together to solve these problems of sustainability, to solve these problems of digital gap, to act on the big issues around equality. And it really gives me meaning coming back to Australia. And as we expand, not just beyond the sustainability issues of Australia and New Zealand, but we move into the Pacific Islands, I also see a little bit of that re-education and digitisation again that comes with Nokia. So this is what we are. We truly believe in the digitisation of every industry, to improve productivity, to improve sustainability, to provide opportunities to close the digital divide and digital gaps, because part of this means uplifting communities that may be left behind. NBN is a classic example of a digital divide gap. I'm a country boy. I got lots of friends who still live in the country. I had the means to come to the city and take the career I have, but they didn't. NBN gives them that opportunity. It gives them that remote learning capability that they didn't have 20 years ago. So hopefully their children will get the opportunity that they didn't have. And this is why I work for Nokia. It's why I love working for Nokia. And it's our purpose. I also live in a world where I wish when I introduced myself that I work for Nokia, I didn't have to spend the first 10 minutes explaining we don't make phones anymore. But that's what the rebrand is about. It's about forcing a re-evaluation of who Nokia is, and what Nokia does. And this logo is the Nokia that digitises the world, that addresses these big issues, that is a business-to-business technology innovation leader, not a consumer brand. The consumer brand is still there. The phones are still resold. The consumer brand will exist for some time. It has strength. But there is another Nokia brand that represents industry and industry digitisation. And I pray in 5 years' time, maybe when I'm retiring, or 10 years' time, when I introduce as Andrew at the barbecue, they go, you're the guys that do all that industry stuff. That is like the utopian outcome of the brand and the rebranding. We concentrate on future performance-ready networks, so we think about the problems of tomorrow. We had Leslie Shannon, our trend innovation scouter here, and she spends her life just looking for stuff happening in the tech world that we haven't thought about yet. And she was talking a lot about consumer metaverse and how consumer-grade AR is maybe 5 or 6 years away, and what the potential impact of that is on the industry, as we realise that enterprise metaverse is actually having significant impact, which I believe Hilary will touch on. We want impact at scale. We want to be able to have scalable solutions, and collaboration is everything. I had a project in Korea that taught me this. I ran into a clothing company, and they were having issues with safety on sites, and they were describing their problems to me, and I was going, well, hang on, you can fix that with a camera or this or that. 2 or 3 hours of discussion, we realised there's something happening here, and I was able to take a safety vest that I can send the link to the details that we made together. There was a wearable clothing that had camera trackers, heart rate trackers in it, geo-positioning, etc. And that was just a collaborative thing, like people with different problems in different industries realising that they could solve each other's challenges. So, we can't ignore that the heart of our market is still carriers. It's still the TPGs, it's still the NBNs, it's still the Telstras, it's still the Optuses, of Australia. It's the 1NZs, it's the Choruses, it's the 2 Degrees, etc. of New Zealand, and the Digicel Pacifics and the Onatis, etc. of the Pacific Islands. And we will continue to serve them with leading technology. One of the changes with Pekka coming in is that we realised we are a technology company, and we will be leaders in technology. The services we deliver will support that technology and enable the sales of that technology. We are a technology company. But at the same time, as we look at this digitisation, we realise that to be successful, this has to spread from the carriers into the enterprise segment. And Nokia in Australia has been very successful in this area, particularly with mining, particularly with rail. We're starting to see, in fact, we are one of the larger enterprise markets for Nokia globally, and it's quite a leading market because we have these big, heavy, capital-intensive industries that are early adopters of this kind of digitisation. I can spend 3 hours on presentations about mining and port, and railway digitisation alone, and some of the stories behind it are just incredible. There's also the web scalers that we work with. We don't do geopolitics. It happens, but as responsible, members of the business and to the shareholders, we have a diligence or a care of duty to take opportunity where it presents itself. And the web scalers certainly are an area that presents itself as a strong opportunity. We're working with them both in the US, and I think Hilary will talk about this much more eloquently than I can. And then we have our licensing product, Nokia Technologies. We still have thousands, 20, tens of thousands of patents. We still have the history of Bell Labs behind us, and we look to take these innovations and license them and turn them into value for the company and our shareholders while bringing benefit to the industry. Our business groups, so network infrastructure, or if you want to be simple, fixed. This is where our IP, our optical, our fixed networks development happens. We're very In fact, it's our fastest growing business unit at the moment. I think if COVID taught us anything, it taught us how important good, strong, fixed connectivity is in our lives and our homes. Mobile networks, that's the part that's the last mile. Everyone forgets that everything apart from the last mile is actually fixed, but then you have the mobile networks that everyone knows that connects us to our beloved phones, lets us stream cat videos on demand, but hopefully will take us further in the future. Then our cloud and network services, and one of the parts of how we see networks evolving is that networks and cloud will converge. Computing will more and more move away from your devices. And so we work in an area where networks and cloud meet. So we're trying to build high-performance networks, ultra-reliable high-performance networks, with the scalability and the convenience of cloud, and the consumability of cloud. So that you're able to access it as a service like you buy Amazon storage or Amazon compute. Nokia Technologies, I mentioned before, where we do all our licensing. We turn our patents, our innovations, and license them out to the industry so that there can be competition and fair use. And of course, Nokia Bell Labs, often forgotten about as part of Nokia. Foundational company. Lasers, transistors, the very birth of modern communications. I think it's 9 Nobel Prizes, maybe 10, a Turing and a Grammy. So much of the industry owes itself to the origins in Bell Labs. Doing very well. We have over 300 commercial 5G deals now, 304 to be exact. Of course, the country going crazy at the moment is India. Why is that interesting? India can change the dynamics of the world based on its scale. I'll tell you an interesting story. NBN, fixed wireless access with millimetre wave with us right now. We've been doing some testing, up to 5 gigabits seen, 5 or 6 kilometres as part of the whole government's upgrade announcement. Nokia and NBN are leading edge here technology-wise, but always India watching. Because if we make this work, Reliance Jio has 200 million broadband connections they want to put on in the next 3 years, 60% through millimetre wave. And that will change the fundamental economics of millimetre wave with those kinds of volumes. So a lot of very exciting things happening in the industry right now. And, I often say crushing it in enterprise, especially in Oceania, where our mining involvement or our mining market share is enormous. We've recently also moved into train significantly. We have PTA in Perth, we have VicRail, we have Sydney trains. There are more coming. And even in New Zealand, we're starting to see a lot of activity in the train space. And then let me talk a little bit more about Oceania in the few minutes I have left. So here, it's the same story. We're broadening our customer base, but I want to talk a little bit about the brand purposing here as well. So, you know the people on the right. It's the carriers and the fixed providers we have in the country. On the left, we've been working a fair bit too with the hyperscalers. The comment I'll make there is a little bit like my phone story. You introduce yourself, hi, I'm Andrew, Mr. Google, I work for Nokia. Okay, what do you do? I thought you guys did phones, and then we have to go through the whole education process about, no, we do long distance, deep sea cabling with ASN, we do IP, we do data center solutions, etc. And they eventually work out who we are because there's not so many of them. And so we can actually educate. So the Googles and the Amazons and the Microsofts, we have a lot of collaboration with them. They know who we are well now. But this center place is where the brand issue was probably the most problematic. Every time you go and introduce yourself to another enterprise in Australia, it's the same 10-minute barbecue speech. No, we don't make phones anymore. In fact, I had the greatest example in Canberra when I was seeing DFAT. I got let in by the guard downstairs, and he says, oh yeah, what do you do? I work for Nokia. I said, oh, Nokia, you guys made phones. And I thought I'd take a punt. I said, oh, mate, who's your carrier? He says, oh, I'm with TPG. We deliver the whole network. All of the radio, most of it's all built by us. Oh, really? So, we've got to create that awareness of what Nokia does. And again, this is what the new branding is about. You see a different logo, and you go, okay, that's Nokia, but not Nokia. So who are you? And you actually get asked rather than assumed on what you do when we build our brand presence through this exercise. You'll see a bit of stuff here today. This was part of what was in Barcelona, part of where we are. Interestingly, a lot of this cutting-edge technology is in Oceania. So fibre for everything, the latest MF14 XGS PON products where we can run 1 gig to the home, 10 gig to the home, 25 gig to the home, 50 gig to the home, and we even have 100 gig in the pipeline for this product. Deployed with NBN, our Prime Minister here last year with the Finnish Prime Minister to announce that deal. 5G for everything in the industries, all the devices, all of the different sectors we're working in. Fixed wireless access and beacons, you might be surprised to know that a majority of the fixed wireless access devices sold in the market today are actually Nokia devices. So if you get an FWA leaflet from TPG saying, hey, you're in an FWA area, strong chance you'll get a fixed wireless access device from Nokia. If you're in New Zealand and you're with 2 Degrees, you'll definitely get one from Nokia. If you're with Optus, there's a strong chance you'll get one from Nokia. And if you're with NBN millimetre wave, you'll definitely get one from Nokia. We have probably one of the most innovative, this is it here in the corner actually, little round thing, little self-orientating antenna inside. We even have an outdoor mount one, so you don't have to actually point it in any particular direction, it self-orientates itself, and then we have a super duper big one that has to be professionally installed for when you want to go really long distances out in the bush. And then Nokia in space, AST. So we're working with them on direct satellite to handset communications. Of course, everyone knows about Starlink, lots of discussions about Starlink, what it is, how it does. It's disrupting the market, this is true. It's also burning a lot of satellites every day, so how sustainable the model is. But Nokia with AST, our business model is clear. We're going direct to the handset, so that you should be able to take a handset off the shelf, even an iPhone with the old home button on it still, and that should be able to make a satellite call as long as it has access to the satellite coverage, which is going to be a huge game changer for Australian coverage. Okay, let's be realistic, it's not going to work indoors. You might bring back the aerial on the car if you really want to take an in-car call, and you might have to walk out from under a tree. But if you've got a flat tyre 150 kilometres from nowhere, stepping outside of your car to make sure you can call someone, there's not much of a task. Locally, you'll see next door here, we've done a lot of work with UTS. I'm very proud to be at UTS. You mentioned an Ulu collaboration. Our work at UTS here is excellent. We've done cobots, connected robots, offloading robot processing to the cloud so you can have robots and people working collaboratively side by side. I saw the movie The Creator on the weekend. We're a long way from that, but we're making steps. Spot the dog, walking on guided training and searching unsafe situations, etc. You'll see in the video room outside, 5G connected farms. One of the most classic ones is counting sheep. Believe it or not, they still count sheep by people click, click, click. 90% plus accuracy in the first hour, but after that, the joke about counting sheep is very true. So we actually have a video camera that just analyzes the sheep as they go past and counts them all. You can also recognize animals in distress. You can do various activities like that. Quite cool stuff. And waste management in Melbourne we've been working on. And next door here, the 5G connected brewery. It's an interesting ESG story because this guy farms algae. He's working out how to farm algae on high scale because algae is responsible for 50% of the oxygen production in the world. They're trying to work out how to farm algae at scale so you can have more algae to do more carbon reduction, and also you can convert it to biofeed and biofuel, which cows apparently make less gas if they use biofeed from algae. So we're working on him, and next door there's this brewery, and they had to get some experts in to help them brew beer because they're doing a lot of experiments. The guy has a second brewery in Germany and a digital twin, and he wasn't very good at brewing beer, but he was a good biochemist. So they've got a brewery in Young Henry's to explain how to properly brew beer. And they stared at the algae tank next door and said, what's that? Oh, that's for carbon reduction. They go, hang on, beer makes quite a lot of carbon. So after a brief chat, if you Google Young Henry's algae project, you'll find that they've actually put 2 full-size algae tanks in the Young Henry's brewery in Newtown here, and they've gone carbon neutral as a result of their collaboration working with the robot and the brewery next door, which is pretty cool. We're waiting to see how it scales a bit, but at least we can say environmentally we've had one piece of sustainability impact with this project. And in closing, because I'm probably way over, I often am, you know, just want to remind our presence in Oceania. 20 years ago, 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 20 years a We supply 70 to 80% of NBN, we supply 100% of TPG, we supply about 40-50% of Optus, we run the TPG and the Optus networks completely. Over in New Zealand, we supply 80% or more of Chorus, we supply 100% of One New Zealand, we supply 65% of Spark, we run the networks for Chorus and Enable over there. And then you see a lot of enterprise logos up there, BHP, Rio Tinto, Public Transport Authority for rail, Vic Rail, talking waters, talking to ports. Our enterprise business is growing at a phenomenal rate and will continue to, and that's where we see the real excitement of digitising industry and bringing the benefits. So I hope I didn't go too long. Sorry about that. I hope I didn't steal too much of Hilary's thunder, but it's been great to talk to you all, and I'll pass a little clip over. Thank you very much.
Andrew, where did he go? There you are. So I'm hoping you'll walk away with three things. They always say three things. So just 2 seconds of background. I'm American, I live in Amsterdam, I used to live in Sydney. And so I'm tri-continent oriented. And actually I used to have Andrew's job years and years ago in Australia, so it's really nice to be back for a little bit. But now I run strategy and technology globally for our sales and marketing organization at Nokia. And I'm filling in actually for our Asia Pacific CTO because he couldn't be here today. So the three things I'm hoping you'll remember coming out of this. First is that metaverse, and I hope you'll agree with, so that's the first point. Metaverse is not a consumer-only thing, and actually industrial and enterprise metaverse is happening now. Second thing I want you to think about, and I hope I convince you of, a high-performance network in 2030 is not the same as a high-performance network today, and it's not just about bandwidth and speed. And third, Nokia has been and continues to be at the forefront, defining the standards and technologies that bring new opportunities throughout the decade and help this world act together. So I'm trying to keep it simple today because we don't have a lot of time, so where are we today? And I want to share some results that we have from an EY study about the industrial metaverse, and I want to spend a little more time on the future. So let's start with where we are and how far we've come. This is sort of a view of and this is aligned with World Broadband Association, a view of broadband over time. And it's a little bit fixed oriented, but you can see 5G, et cetera, in that. So we've doubled the number of people using the internet in the past decade, but there are still 2 billion unconnected, 2 billion. There are also 2.2 billion without safe water, and there are also about 1 billion without reliable electricity, and of those, 775 million have no electricity. So we have a lot of issues to solve on getting people connected, right? That's still important. You heard about our refresh brand, right? And I really love Andrew's passion. He's taken a lot away here. This notion of helping the world act together because we believe we can change society with digitalization is really important. And we have a lot of proof points around that. And you have heard a lot of good stories about that. There are a lot more. So that's a big part of what we want to be doing, but we need to get people connected to do that. People and things, I should say. 5G had the fastest uptick of any mobile technology so far, with 1.1 billion subs at year-end 22 and 1.9 billion projected at the end of this year. So it's moving at a faster pace than any prior generation of mobile technology. But we're still about halfway through what I would call the 5G decade. So if you look at the Gs, 2G, 3G, 4G, it's typically about a decade of time from when the first commercialization happens to when you're really getting the full benefit. And in terms of capacity, right? So India just started rolling out. I can tell you India is rolling out. Bharti and Reliance Jio are rolling out entire nationwide networks in 1 year. It's incredible the pace at which they're moving. But again, even with that sort of high-level coverage, there'll be a lot of infill still required. They won't have capacity everywhere, right? It's still a basic rollout. If you look at Europe, Europe is where I live. I just took a train, actually, from 2 capital cities, from Brussels in Belgium, which is, capital of the EU, to Luxembourg, which is, where all the lawyers and accountants in Europe live, if you ever want to know where all the money is. And during the entire train ride, I could only get connected maybe for 5-10 minutes at a time reliably. So on any kind of connection, like 2G, 3G, I'll take whatever I can get, right? So there's a lot of work to do still in Europe. Meanwhile, of course, if you're in the Nordics, where I used to work quite a bit, or if you're in Netherlands, where I live, perfect connectivity everywhere. But it's spotty throughout most of the continent. And of course, the US still has a lot of infill to do. So in terms of coverage, we still have a lot of work to do globally. So people keep saying, it's dead, and I'm like, no, actually, still a lot of work to do. But secondly, there's a lot of capability still coming. So we talk about 3GPP release 18. Any of you ever hear of that? Okay, great. 5G Advanced is going to bring a whole bunch of new capability, and particularly capability that affects what I call XR, which is extended reality, virtual reality. So we'll use XR that's a familiar term for you guys, I assume. We'll get a lot more out of 3GPP 18, so 5G Advanced. That starts to commercialize in 2024. And you'll see a lot of the use cases that we get really excited about, you heard about from Andrew, are going to get much more realistic to deploy when you have that next set of software upgrades. So it's a software upgrade generally. It's not like people have to go put in new radios. But again, we need more coverage, we need more capability, and you'll start to see in the second half of the 5G decade significantly more benefits, both societal and then commercial for operators. And of course, we mentioned it, fiber is the key to everything. So nothing moves bits. You cannot ever move bits better than you can over glass, right? There's no other medium that moves bits and bytes better. And so there's still a lot of connectivity to do in terms of fiber to everything. We're actually seeing poles start to take off, which is fiber in offices, in plants, and so forth. So everywhere you go. Just 2 seconds on consumer. We are seeing, so again, we're early in the life cycle, but we're still seeing quite a bit of growth in global cloud gaming. We have about 40% of 5G operators have launched FWA. 50 countries have some kind of social metaverse. And you're seeing that occur also in places like stadiums and so on. So you see some interesting use cases there. When we talk to customers about the 5G business case payback, and there's a lot of I always get the question around monetization. How do I monetize it? Spend all this money on spectrum, blah, blah, blah. There's 2 ways that we're seeing people monetize. And the first thing people tend to forget is there's a cost savings, right? So you're using spectrum more efficiently. You're able to turn off networks. You're able to offload 4G. You get churn reduction and so forth. So people get a cost benefit over time. In some places like Finland, so I was running our business in Nordics, Baltics, Benelux before this job. And so I did some of the first rollouts in Europe of 5G in Finland. And I can tell you they just had to do 5G because they were out of spectrum, right? So it was not a matter of I need to monetize. It was like I can't serve my customer base otherwise. Finland's a little bit weird. Finland and Sweden right next to each other. Sweden's all fiber. Finland has almost no fixed networks compared to some other markets. It's always been very mobile. The other thing is FWA. So Andrew mentioned fixed wireless access. Fixed wireless access is really taking off. So Reliance Jio, you heard, plans to roll out a ton of it. T-Mobile in the US is rolling out a ton. And they're getting uplifts, revenue uplifts in the billions, right? So the expectation from Reliance is somewhere between $4 and $6 billion in US dollars of uplift in revenue. T-Mobile is getting quite a bit of uplift as well from that. So that's how they're starting to monetize as the first point. We don't talk about gaming enough, in my opinion, and one thing I'm seeing that's interesting is operators starting to advertise to the parents, to advertise cloud gaming to the parents, because the parents are tired of buying a new device every couple of years. And the other thing is that most operators have some kind of a bandwidth cap, and you pay a little more as you use more bandwidth. So they're actually, the other thing that we're seeing from a monetization perspective is operators getting more money, higher ARPU, from selling more bits. So, a lot of operators worry about, they don't want traffic on their network. I'm like, why did you build it? Actually, the more traffic, eventually, the more you monetize it. So we're trying to encourage operators to think about their business in this way and think of traffic as a good thing, because you do actually monetize it. And this is how we're seeing uplift in several operators around the world. So if we move to enterprise, which is the exciting part, you heard 1 million great use cases for Andrew. There are 1 million more. And this digitalization of the world makes a huge difference. The other thing I do in my copious spare time is I'm president of Digital Europe, which is a trade association in Europe. It's the largest one that we're part of. And interestingly, we started getting membership. Traditionally it was sort of people that were either doing devices, like a lot of Japanese companies. It was, Ericsson, Siemens, ourselves, et cetera. But now we have healthcare companies, fintech companies, manufacturing companies, and so forth, because actually everybody is going digital. Digitalization is critical for every industry. So we did a study with EY. And actually, let me clarify the term metaverse first, okay? Because I hate this. I had a discussion with my head of strategy, and he's saying to me just the other day, and he still thinks of metaverse as like Meta and Facebook. I'm like, no, how can you think this way? You're my head of strategy. I'm going to go home and cry now for an hour. No, metaverse is about the application of XR. Like, think of it simply as the application of XR in your environment with digitalization. So metaverse is actually, what was interesting is we did this study with EY. And so let me actually step back. In Nokia Bell Labs, before Facebook ever changed their name to Meta, we decided there were two things that would have a profound long-term impact on society, and we call them metaverse. And that is human augmentation and digital physical fusion. So when we talk about human augmentation, we're talking about the things that enable people to do more than they can just with their existing selves and bodies. And a very simple example of human augmentation is this. This augments my memory every day. I'm sure, do you remember your loved one's phone numbers? Probably not, right? So human augmentation in the form of exoskeletons, in the form of AI, in the form of smart glasses. Did you know there are 500 different smart glasses in the market today? I was stunned by that. At any rate, human augmentation is one part of metaverse. Second part is digital physical fusion. And that is really about digital twin of everything. And we are very early in the start of digital twin. You can see some demos we're doing with digital twinning in the optical networks, for example, so that you can just model your optical network separately. So the cost savings and the capability from digital twins is mind-blowing. At any rate, digital physical fusion is really about digital twinning, and it's the ability to connect the digital and physical realms. So not only the physical world can manipulate the digital, but the digital can manipulate the physical. So that's that fusion piece. So that's what we mean by metaverse, right? When we start to put those things together. So the takeaway from this study was that 98% of customers did not see metaverse. They saw metaverse as not a fad, but a reality. Does that surprise you guys? I hear a lot of people talking about it being faddish, and I was afraid we would get that. But when we talked to businesses, we talked to 860 business users. We did deep dive interviews. So we did a survey of 860, and then we did deep dives with about 20 more experts and business leaders. In automotive, we took 4 industries that are significantly impactful. Automotive, manufacturing, power and utilities, and transport, supply chain, and logistics. So we'll call that transport. We talked to people in US, Brazil, UK, Germany, Japan, South Korea, France, Canada, and Australia. And this was the result. So the interesting thing is that, again, it's not a buzzword. That was encouraging results. But really interesting to me, too, was if you take the folks that have deployed, so like something about 58% of customers that say they're going to do something with metaverse, which is most companies, have already done something. They either piloted or they implemented. So they have something happening. Their actual benefits are this top blue line of CapEx reduction, sustainability, safety improvement. There are lots of different things that drive that benefits that they get out of metaverse. Their actual benefits are compared to what the people who are just in the planning stages still, who haven't done it yet, expect. So in other words, people who are planning still, so that other 40-ish%, expect CapEx reductions around 24%. The people who've actually done it are getting closer to 40%. I thought that was pretty cool. I hope you guys think that's pretty cool, and I hope you read the study. So there's a QR code. You can take a photo and look at it later and download the study. It's very fresh. And again, we did that with EY this year. So that's, if you have time, it's not a terribly long read. It's really worth it. One of the other really interesting observations coming out of that it really sparked for me, just like Andrew got his mojo back with the digitalization of industry. What really sparked me here was this, really hit me how that metaverse humanizes Industry 4.0 in a way. So it enables the acceleration of digitalization by making the insights and outputs more accessible. So you don't have to be a data scientist. You know, you can visualize now in 3 dimensions. So X, Y, and Z, right? 3 dimensions. You can visualize impact. You know, and you don't have to be a data scientist to do it. And I like to use this example. I imagine a city planner. You are asked to go approve a site. It's a commercial site. So you go down with these smart glasses, right, which can feed stuff to you, and you walk around. You're not sitting in your office with a spreadsheet and a blueprint. You can walk around and you can see you're getting stats coming at you about what the impact of a particular, you can move things around and say, if I put this here, this will be the impact on crime rates, this will be the impact on traffic, this will be the impact on pedestrian traffic, on bicycle traffic, et cetera. This will be the impact on energy use. And you can imagine in a very different way, and you don't have to, and you can do it all in real time with AI/ML, right? It's a very different way of making decisions. It's much more human than right, sitting with the spreadsheet and so on. So for me, that was one of the big takeaways. So that takes me to Technology 2030. So this is the Tech Vision. And you guys are getting the first glimpse of our revised, updated Tech Vision 2030, which we have not quite released, so you're getting a first glimpse here, to the world. And what we do, so as a company, we have to think about what the world will look like so that we make sure, we have what we call a Nokia Tech Council, which crosses all of our business groups and Bell Labs and sales and marketing, where I sit. And we look at what the world will look like, and we think about sort of perimeters and guide rails to guide our R&D investment, which is very significant, right? We spend a lot of money on R&D, so we want to guide that in the right way for the future. So we've developed this Tech Vision. We started doing this a couple of years ago, and we get people from all the different groups working together in work streams. We look at the evolution of socioeconomic trends. We look at the evolution of chip technology. We look at the evolution of AI, ML, et cetera. And what we have built this around is this notion of greater integration of these 3 worlds, the human world, the physical world, and the digital world. And if we think of the human world as our values, our perception, emotions, logic, culture, inspirations, and so on. Physical world is, of course, everything that's tangible, so both natural world, like trees and a cup. And we link those 3 things with the digital world. And we think that that really empowers, again, this massive transformation, not just evolution, that we need to become a safer world. And I'm giving you a good example. So we always say that this extends the scope of human possibilities by connecting these worlds more fully. That includes supporting the transformation we will need to achieve net zero in the heaviest industries. So let me give you just a number there. 80% of CO2 emissions come from 4 major industries. And those 4 industries are, forgive me, it's manufacturing, it's buildings, are a big chunk of that actually. So manufacturing, buildings, transport industry, and energy, so mines, utilities, and so on. They represent 80% of CO2 emissions, and without digitalization, the digitalization can account for maybe 40% of their CO2 emission improvements. So we need, when I think about digitalization, it's about making the planet livable in the long term, and that's about extending the scope of human possibility. Does that make sense? To me, that's just like the digitalization gets Andrew excited, that gets me pretty excited. I'm old, I've been in this industry 40 years, so a long time, so I needed a little mojo too. To define our vision, so again, we organized this team, we looked at trends. So there are some things that there are some headwinds, and I would say we have geopolitical headwinds at the moment, which threaten to derail some stuff. So one of the things that we're watching closely is a potential fragmentation of standards. India tried to do their own 5G standard, for example. We managed to stop that. All of the industry got together and convinced the Indian government that wasn't a great idea. But we've had multiple standards globally in the past, and we're moving in the world in such a way that we fear we may get that again. So that's one of the things that we're fighting very hard against, because standardization that's common globally makes a huge difference to the economics. And technology, I'm an economist originally, technology is great can't do squat if it's not financially viable. So you have to have the right economics in place. Sustainability, security, and privacy, absolutely going to stay huge and important. And to give you some stats, the global cost of cybercrime was around $7 trillion US in 2022. It's expected to reach more than 10 trillion in 2025. And the only trend on cybercrime is this, right? It just gets worse and scarier. So we need to have more and more focus in everything we do in networks around security as well as sustainability. Those are super important. AI is actually affecting everything. And AI is not just about ChatGPT, right? AI has been around for a long time. We've been working on ethical AI for a long time. Bell Labs actually does some really good work if you're interested in ethical AI. We have a whole work stream that just does that. At any rate, so that security and privacy piece will be really important. AI will be super important. Devices are going to change, so we'll talk a little bit about, so I mentioned smart glasses. There's a bunch, everyone's excited about Apple and their new device. There'll be varieties of new devices coming down the path, and I understand Leslie, who's actually in my team, was here. I don't know if you guys, did you meet Leslie when she was here? No media? Oh, too bad. Anyway, Leslie does, she's this ecosystem and trend scouting, so she tracks all the devices and things that are happening. There's a lot happening. There's a big debate about will devices have 5G on them, or will they just do local networking? It doesn't matter. Eventually, it impacts your network one way or the other. And we do believe that people will look for tetherless, beyond the home kinds of things. I think I want to mention just a couple things about Gen Z, and the workforce, because that's relevant and how users will be. So in 2025, a year and a half from now, 75% of the global workforce will be millennials. And if we think about 2030, almost 30% of the workforce will be Gen Z, and actually younger than Gen Z. So those are people who are under 26 today, or under 25. My daughter's 26, so she's too old now. And when you think about how that generation, so Gen Z is pretty interesting because they're the least trusting generation on the planet, right? They've been raised during 9/11, COVID, numerous wars, not just Ukraine, but numerous wars and a financial crisis. So this is a group of people. Interestingly, their favorite search platform is YouTube, which sort of surprised me. And the reason for that, right? They don't use Google, they don't use Bing and all of that crap. They use YouTube, and it's because they go for reviews, they go for demos, right? A demo is always worth, just like a picture is worth 1,000 words, a demo is worth 1,000 blah, 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 blahs, right? So it's a generation that is going to be, if it's 30% of the workforce in 2030, it's going to be a very important factor in how we build networks and how we deliver services to people. And then there are technology changes, right? So we think part of the reason when we did the brand change, we talk about collaboration and the world acting together. We really believe that both these big problems that we need to solve in society, but also just the consumer applications and so forth that people want to do, require collaboration. How am I for time? Am I okay, guys? I'm getting close. And that collaboration needs to be easy to do, and that's part of the reason we just introduced this Network as Code. I don't know if you saw our big launch on Network as Code, but we really believe that collaboration will be important in networks, and it'll be possible in networks. And I'll talk about that more in just a minute. Health of the planet is super important, and again, it's you can't say enough about sustainability and how that's going to be a driver of everything we do. From an engineering perspective, it's about how we build in to everything we do. How do we build in power consumption reductions? So, and here's some stats. Between 2019 and 2030, the ICT sector as a whole needs to reduce its environmental footprint by 50% to hit the 1.5 target. And traffic is going to grow about 27 times during that same period. So think of how efficient we have to get with our chips and with turning the network off and on as you need it. And the other thing is, of course, circularity. You have to design for circularity from day one. So I like to see that, and Leslie's just written a book. She wrote a book on metaverse. She also is writing a book on virtual natives. So the other thing about users in 2030 is that they will be not just digital native, but virtual native. And here's the difference. Virtual natives have no physical artifacts. So like a map. Think about a map and your experience with a map. You guys look pretty young. Did any of you ever use physical maps? I'm looking at the guys who are writing. You ever use a physical map?
Yes.
Okay, you have? Have you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Imagine, do you have kids?
No.
Someday you'll have kids, maybe, or you have friends who have kids or whatever. You have kids? One. So your kid is never going to have that experience, right? Their whole experience of a map is going to be increasingly virtual, right? So it's whether it's smart glasses, whether it's just on their on their phone, whatever. But it's a virtual experience. They have no concept of that physical artifact, and that changes the way they start to behave and expect. Email is the result of a generation that has a physical artifact, right, of mail. These future generations don't have that, so email is foreign to them to begin with. How old is your kid?
4 weeks.
4 weeks. Oh, okay. Okay, so nothing yet. But you guys, do you guys use email?
Yeah.
Do you like it? Do you use it for personal reasons, or do you use something else?
I use email.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have friends who have younger? I can tell you, younger kids. Like I don't know. I have a daughter. She's 26. She does Snapchat. She will do Instagram, maybe. But you know, they have different modes, but they don't tend to operate the same way. So they're going to learn digital. Their digital experience will be very different than ours, and you can start to let your imagination go. The other thing about Gen Z that's super interesting, and I think it's going to impact networks, is that Gen Z is a creator generation. So today, Adobe did a study in 2022. 23% of people, so almost a quarter of people, are creators. And by the way, I was just meeting with a client, a customer of ours, talking about bandwidth requirements. And it is amazing to me that we still have this discussion that completely ignores upstream. I don't know how a network planner, and I will just say that there are network planners in this country in very large organizations who are paying zero attention to upstream. I don't know what drugs you have to be on. It is all about upstream. So 1 in 4 people are creators. That means they're uploading video, they're uploading content of various kinds, and that's what they do. Gen Z spends an average of 1 hour a day creating content. An average of 1 hour a day. That's a lot of time. That's outside of work and everything else. So now imagine, so you know that we can write code with AI, right? So I can have AI write code today. We have APIs that'll be open in the network, so think 2030, right? 7 years away. So imagine you've got this generation of people who are content creators. They don't need to be developers to start to use things in the network, right? They can use AI. They can use natural language AI to say, I want this kind of a service capability, and it'll write the API for them and give them what they want. So you can think about a world where there's a lot more happening in the network. And that can be consumer applications, but it can be industrial and enterprise applications as well. And by the way, the farming, agriculture, precision agriculture is fascinating if you're interested in that at all. We have a bunch of stuff on the web about that from Brazil, where we're doing a lot of work as well. So we looked at technologies, Web3, cloud. We have to solve the multi-cloud issue. Web3 is going to transform ecosystem value chains. And potentially, if you get, again, if we go back to geopolitics, there's huge pressure by many people to eliminate the power of the US dollar. If we actually get to a multipolar world with no major currency, then Web 3.0 becomes incredibly important, because you have to have some trustworthy way to manage money, right? I don't know, again, the economist me worries a little bit about a world that's fully multipolar and what that means for society, but hey, there we go. AI is going to be everywhere. It'll be fundamental. So we spend a lot of time researching on AI. So first of all, multi-cloud support. And actually, it's interesting. In the EU is trying to pass legislation that would force. One of the things that Thierry Breton, who's one of the commissioners there, is formerly the CEO of Orange. And he's just out to kill the web scalers. It's pretty interesting. But he has been pushing through, they're trying to push through legislation that would force web scalers to make all workloads portable. between web scale platforms, which is a little bit like if you think about network portability in the telco world, right? It's kind of a similar analogy. Very difficult to do technically, expensive to do, game changing, right? So that's multi-cloud support is something that we're all working on multi-cloud orchestration of some kind, but if you're a service provider, you're going to start putting network functions. So we have customers now putting network functions in the cloud. They obviously want to have diversity. You don't want to have everything in Google's cloud or everything in Microsoft's cloud or Tencent's cloud, right? You want to be able to go back and forth. So that's a really important problem that we still need to solve technically, and it's not simple. Network and cloud convergence, what we mean there is that it's going to be really important for the network and the cloud to talk to each other in such a way that they can, if you're going to get operational, move towards a zero-touch operational environment, you need network and cloud to talk to each other to dimension each other. So the cloud needs to be able to tell the network how to dimension for something, for a particular service. The network needs to be able to talk to the cloud and do the same thing. Again, difficult technical problem, requires a lot of standards. There's work in all kinds of standard on that. Enhanced symmetrical capacity. Again, symmetrical capacity really matters, upstream really matters, and being able to do focus capacity, because you don't want to have everything on all the time for sustainability reasons, so you want to be able to do the amount you need, when you need it, how long you need it, and not much else, right? So that ability, again, to define your requirements. We believe that the network functions need to be AI native. Today they're AI enhanced. And they need to be AI native because eventually, again, if you're going to get to a zero-touch world, which is where you need to get to for cost reasons, for sustainability reasons, and so on, or you need to get close to it, you need to have everything in the network be able to digital twin itself and talk to each other. So you need to have AI native in your network functions. We think intent-based autonomy is around having sort of Web3 and other capabilities in the network so you have ledgers and so forth so that you can do new business models. So if we go back to those Gen Zers creating things, whether it's an industrial thing or a consumer thing, and using AI with APIs to do it, they also need to commercialize it, both the operator or the service provider in whatever form that is, and the partner that they're working with need to be able to monetize that. So they need ledgers and systems to do that. So that's around the network capability exposure. On intent-based autonomy, again, it's the dream. How many years have we been dreaming of fully autonomous networks? Yeah, it's the single hardest thing. But again, to get to closed loop automation, you have to start with a digital twin of everything. So one of the things we are doing, and you can see at least one piece of, I guess it's not a demo, but you can see some slides on it. I did the demo recently, and I told them they need to really freaking simplify it. They're working on that. So we have digital twin capability in our radios, in our optical networking, in our IP routing networks, and the very beginnings, I would say, in our NDOC portfolio. But we're working on, and so that's one of the things that we're working on as a technical community across the company, is how do we build digital twin into everything so that eventually the operator can digital twin the full network in such a way that they can move towards autonomous operations. This is super important. From QoS and QoE control to intent-based service delivery and orchestration. That's, again, about, sorry, I'm almost there. Okay, I won't have time for everything. That moves towards, this is going to take us to 6G, because you need to be able, what you want to be able to do is you want the network to know, instead of someone having to tell it, that this device needs this capability at this particular time and then needs to be turned off, right? It's just simple stuff. Simple, but really hard to do in the network. Energy optimized and intent secure, this is obvious. So 6G, and this is my last slide. Bell Labs has been working on 6G for a couple of years already. So we actually published a white paper 2 years ago. Again, take a picture of the QR code and download it. Even though it's 2 years old, it's still quite good. So we identified 6 key technologies. We talked about a bunch of this, right? We identified 6 key technologies that are critical to 6G. Why do we start talking about 6G now? People are like, why are you talking about 6G? It takes 10 years from when we start talking about and setting the principles around to define standards to when we commercialize. That's how it typically goes. I went with 5G, 4G. It's about 10 years. So we're about 2 years in. You have a range of people. Korea wants to start deploying in 2027. South Korea does. I think in Australia they would tell us, you got to be kidding me. I don't want to deploy for probably some time. There's a war between countries. There's a technology war between countries. That's not news. And obviously, there are several countries that want to lead in 6G. So India plans to lead in 6G because they particularly hate having been a laggard in 5G. China certainly intends to be first in 6G. South Korea has always, and Japan both are always first. The US is now on the warpath to become meaningful in wireless technologies again. So there is, even if operators are sitting around going, hey, I can't monetize it yet, help me, there are powers that will force them towards these new technologies. So 6G, I wanted to talk about one aspect of 6G and then I'll be done. Because all these things are pretty straightforward, but there's network as a sensor is probably one of the most interesting things about 6G. Okay, so just very quickly, network as a sensor, think of a network as a thing that does radar. Someone said to me, why do I care? I can do this with sensors today. I said, think about the economics. Again, it's always about money, people. It's always about money. If the network is a sensor, you don't need to go do the life cycle of putting up a bunch of physical devices. It's there. It's there, and it's actually a better sensor in many cases than traditional physical sensors will be. So in dark and fog and other kinds of things, you'll have a sensor that could be potentially more valuable. So we have use cases, a simple example. And actually 3GPP has written, I think, 16 use cases already for this. But if you have a vulnerable person, you guys are young, but do you have parents that you worry about or grandparents? Yeah? My mom just passed this year, but before that, I really wanted to have a 6G as a sensor in her apartment so she could live alone, and I didn't have to worry about her falling down and not having anyone call, right? So simple things like being able to detect heartbeats, being able to detect a change, are things that this could do, because it can act as a sensor that can actually tell what things are where, you couple it with AI, et cetera, but can also tell what things are made of, so it's kind of interesting that way. Another really good, interesting healthcare kind of thing, because healthcare is a big one, sleep apnea. Sleep apnea. So people who have sleep apnea, if you wear one of these to bed, you're a good kid and you're actually, trying to do the right thing. But most people aren't good about detection. They don't wear something to bed. They don't keep it on. It doesn't catch very quickly. So sleep apnea is another one of those things that you could capture very easily with the network and be able to do something about, so you could act on it. So that's it. Now first, let me check. Metaverse, not a consumer-only topic. Are you on board? No? You still think it's consumer-only?
Sorry, no.
You agree? Okay, good. High-performance network is different in 2030 than today. It has different characteristics, security, etc. We're on board with that one? Yeah? Okay. And please remember upstream, please. And Nokia's at the forefront of defining all of these things. I trust you agree that's obvious, and I hope you'll enjoy the demos today. That's it, thanks.
Right, now it's time to take off the jacket, get that logo out there. So my name is Perry Polman, and I'm the head of marketing for Asia Pacific, or APJ I should say, for the region here. And what I want to do now is go into the second phase of the presentation, is get a little bit of exercise going for you guys. So we're going to have to turn that camera into a mobility unit, but I'm going to take you through the presentations that were launched during MWC. And you will get a copy of all of these, so you can get a nice clear picture rather than trying to photograph all of this. But we have 4 distinct areas that we broke the entire 3,700 square meter venue up into. And our CNS side on the green here, the Cloud Network Services, we broke it up into security, and then we looked at the sustainability, but also 5G revenue opportunities. And then core software as a service was launched at MWC with a variety of basically sub-solutions. It's not a product itself, but what you make from it is product. And now recently, we've just launched network as a service, which is very new, and that takes it even further with the capability, what we're launching there. Mobile networks launched a range of different topics, but the three key ones here is radio leadership with a whole range of new products on their portfolio list, and many of the products based on 5 nanometer technology. I mean, you know, the global chip wars and all of these where the sort of the players are going. We've actually delivered ReefShark now on 5 nanometer technology, and I can show you some of those products that we've got out there. Also, the latest in our microwave Wavens portfolio and some unique innovations into that space. Then performance innovation is part of Cloud RAN, and also my favorite, the network planning and optimization, because it's the product that you use basically pre and post event. Then basically the operational and energy efficiency on the liquid radio and also the management system on that capability there, but also the capability of delivering literally zero power consumption on zero throughput requirements. So a real great efficiency sort of capability at that particular point, done with software and hardware solutions. The network infrastructure, 3 distinct areas. We've got the connect everyone and everything in our fixed network side, and many of those products based on the Killian chipset. Then we've got the sustainable cloud connectivity and cloud native operations that were shown up, more to be grouped into what we call the optical networks, which is based on the PSE-6 chipset and the latest product portfolio, and that delivers up to 2.4 terabits throughput, and that's also once again 5 nanometer technology. And then we've got the IP product portfolio still based on the FP5 chipset and capability. Then of course, when you take these 3 different business groups together, you can create a whole variety of then enterprise solutions, really important for our enterprise, the fastest growing area, where we've got a whole range of capability in our private wireless, public safety, and of course in our industry 4.0. And I want to now literally get you guys up from your desks, and I'll take you through a demo tour across 2 floors of this facility so that you get to see and experience some of the things that we will be showing customers over the next 3 days. So this is our industry wall that we're just showing some of the samples of the items that were presented at MWC. And one of the interesting ones is the new one that's come out of the strategy and technology group that Hilary leads, that you've been seeing there. And this here is called RXRM, meaning real-time extended reality multimedia. And it has a unique capability of basically delivering 8K video, but with a very low uplink. Because you heard about the importance of uplink and the uplink traffic there itself, but this has a unique capability through compression and just targeting what needs to be sent up to be able to deliver the uplink as an 8K quality in only about 4 megabits per second.
Yeah.
You want to give a 15-second update?
Very good. So basically the whole idea is that the 360 camera sees to any direction, but basically, of course, human eye can only see a fraction of it. So as Perry was saying, that what we basically do is that with the solution we stream only that part that the person wants to see. So for example, here's an example from a mine. This is about teleoperation of a mining equipment. And basically when you carry your tablet in this case, so basically it streams only that part of the video that you are interested in. So if somebody wants to try, it's quite intuitive. So you just move your kind of a hand, and then it basically streams that particular piece that you are interested in. Here's another example. This is about an energy company doing power line inspection with a drone that has a 360 camera. So basically, you can see kind of power lines, the vegetation underneath, and basically capture everything from the video stream. And one can, of course, see this real time, But in many instances, then you may want to store the video, and then different experts can review that then later. For example, if in the case of, like, let's say, insurance company, there could be different experts viewing the content as they kind of can then collaborate together.
Thank you. Thank
Good.
you. If you want to say
Thanks.
more about it, your next solution, you can do that. Then we also take basically customers through the variety of public safety solutions we have. And this example here is literally a 15-minute presentation. I won't take you through it, but what it means is literally collecting all of the data on a firefighting or police or safety sort of situation, and then providing that into control centers, then from everything from connected suits to basically coordinating hardware and drones and cameras to basically address the fire or emergency need that's in the field. Then what we've got here is a whole range of solutions, and that we demonstrate on private wireless networks used for factories, used for car manufacturing facilities and capabilities. And you can see here is a real life example of a complete private wireless system in a box solution, consisting basically of the baseband, then of our NDAC solution capability, the distribution, then to the radio heads themselves. And you will be seeing a lot more of this product actually in use as I take you around the facility here as well. But let's keep on moving. Let me take you to the cloud and network software area. This wall represents, of course, our cloud network services area. The unique part about the cloud network service area is that it delivers a whole range of software solutions. In fact, the portfolio is so large, there's over 50 different products that come through it. And what we launched at MWC was core software as a service. So software capability of delivering new services from the core network itself. And then we've taken that just last month in a big launch to network as a service. So you can't go to the Nokia portfolio and says, I want to buy network service. It's the product that you build as a network as a service on your network that is actually the individual products that you deliver out of that. They're delivered through a variety of capabilities. The beauty of these is that you can pre-test these very simple on a private network before actually launching then on a large scale network, very effective and generating new revenue. As part of the generation of new revenue opportunities, we look at monetization of the 5G network, but also the capability of sustainability of the 5G and even the 4G network itself by using software to monitor individual nodes where power consumption has occurred, where power consumption can be reduced, and where efficiency can be used in determining how to move traffic around to get the maximum capability of this. This here is my favorite area. This is part of the importance of security and addressing security itself. There's a variety of different solutions that we present here on security, but my favorite one is the NetGuard Cybersecurity Dome, which has just been recently released. And the beauty of that particular solution, it does an end-to-end look at the network, not only at the product level, but the users that are interacting. And the importance is it doesn't need any Nokia products to be underlying, to be monitoring the entire network capability itself. Coming across to our network infrastructure. Our network infrastructure is broken up into 3 business units. We've got IP, we've got optical networks, and we've got fixed networks on here. As you can see from the back wall, that basically just shows the variety of different products that are sitting into the network and the particular capability and where they should be positioned in there for their placing. I will show you a physical product of the GPON latest FP14 product and its connectivity for fiber to the home and where it's used in Australia itself. The IP network is based, of course, on a variety of different products. We've got the SR series based on the FP5 chipset, but we also have a lot of the data center product and switches that are capable into there. On the optical network side, this is our latest chipset here, the PSE6 based on 5 nanometer technology. And that little baby is capable of 2.4 terabits throughput. And there's a whole range of a variety of optical products that come together that literally glue the architecture of the network together. Everything from across the land to right for the ASN network, which is the undersea cable business itself. Of course, ultimately getting all of that fixed broadband network at home is then the range of basically fixed networks products, which are traditionally known through the DSL, but now predominantly through all of the optical capability. We've got some products just as small as a single card capability, right up to a multiple card system for the F14 product itself. And I'll show you that on the back wall in a second. But coming through to the mobile networks, we've got a range of products here that or categories that we're releasing here. And that's important one is the release of the operational and efficiency part of the energy saving part of the network, and just showing how that energy efficiency demo can actually save a considerable amount of money in the operation of the network, and also there for the deployment and planning side of it as well. The performance and innovation side of the network comes in here is that we're basically with many of the leading solutions and even downlink 5G carrier aggregation, so actually linking 5G services together to deliver high, ultra high throughput on 5G itself, but also the 4G as well, and of course the uplink carrier aggregation and RedCap then for future devices and IoT capability as well on the performance side, and there's many more to go with that. On the radio leadership, there's the whole range of products, and I'll just show you two in a second, but also the Cloud RAN capability and the AnyRAN capability presentation that the customers go through here. I'll just take you through two of the latest and greatest on the massive MIMO product portfolio side. This here is a 64T, 64R massive MIMO unit. It's our Holbrook range, and it's also based on the ReefShark 5 nanometer technology capability here. This one here is with fans. We have also the ones without fans, and basically this is the 32T, 32R product here itself. This is a real life one here, and as you can see, I don't really work out. I sit behind a desk, so it's not that heavy. They've become much lighter, and this is also based on the latest on the ReefShark capability that's out here as well. Just taking you back to the GPON system over here on this particular back wall here. So this is the physical setup and demo that we're delivering to the Australian network at this point in time. And so the MF14 being the latest in the portfolio itself. The beauty about this particular unit is that the cards can either do the single GPON, but also the 10 GPON or XGSS GPON, 25 gigabit GPON, and it is also hardware ready for the 100 GPON systems itself. And then of course you can connect then a variety of home or business or even then ultra business uses for the various products like these here in the sample there. The splitting ratio can be anywhere from a standard like 1 to 16 or right up to a 1 to 128. So that means each individual port could potentially connect 128 units. So if you've got then 128 times 16 times then 14, you can see how many thousands of devices that you could actually connect up home itself. But let me take you into some real life use cases right now. So let's just walk over here into the 5G factory for brewing beer. So in here, we've got the 5G lab, and basically, as Andrew presented before, you can see up here the small 5G node that is delivering basically all of the service for the monitoring, for the tracking, for all of the devices, instead of needing hundreds or dozens of cables coming from the actual system itself. Basically, you can see what a 5G factory can do for brewing beer. The beauty of having your productions as wireless production capability, you can see then you can make your production facility modular, flexible and movable, and rearrange them around without having to worry the cable coming along here itself. I'll take, over there is the algae. The 5G is controlling then also facilities on that side, taking literally the carbon dioxide out of this facility and then used then for the algae to produce the oxygen as well. let me take you upstairs. So you can see here a range of the older version of massive MIMO antennas, and you saw down below how small and how compact they're becoming now with the latest series of them. In the middle here, so these two smaller ones, they're for millimeter wave solutions, absolutely high capacity millimeter wave, where we demonstrated delivering over 4 and 5 gigabits throughput per phone, per device. So ultra high capacity items there. Then there's a series of radio modules that are under here for both a single band and even up to triple band capability per radio module. The unique thing about the latest in these portfolios that you can see here, very popular, used here in the Oceania region, is the IPAA antenna, and we've done some press releases with that as well. This IPAA antenna basically delivers all of the bands onto a single antenna. So rather than cluttering a rooftop with multiple antennas per frequency, we're now able to get the radio modules feeding into here, including 5G, and then delivering all of the services passive from 700 megahertz to 2.6 gigahertz, and then the active 3.5 gigahertz for the 5G capability there as well. And the back there on the back racks, we can emulate and run core networks and emulate basically various customer networks so that we can actually see situations and capabilities in that particular space itself. Coming now onto the back wall, of course, what we're finding is that most operators within 1 or 2 years deploy the 5G at a pretty good 80 to 90% street coverage very fast. But if you have a look at many reports from Deloro or industry analysts, they basically say 70 to 80% of all mobile traffic is generated or terminated indoors. As such, then we have a range of different indoor products, as you've already seen, for the factory and the private wireless network, but also for the SOHO and smaller ones, which this is the smart node that can deliver 4G and 5G capability then into services very quickly. The unique thing about this particular product itself is that it can use the public internet to get back to connectivity, so you don't need a specialized connection to deliver your 5G into your home back there as well. Then, of course, we have a range of different fixed network products for the beacon itself, and the latest beacon product is the Beacon 10 that delivers up to 10 gigabits into the home. I know I don't need 10 gigabits, but I do know that Gen Z probably will. Certainly my daughters. Yeah, Singapore is already selling that, for example, as $128 in StarHub service for that into your home capability. And then there's fixed wireless access, which is very popular in Australia. This product is absolutely closing the digital divide in Australia itself, so it's a real nice one where you can't get fibre into a home, but you do have the 5G coverage capability, and then a range of beacons for meshed Wi-Fi capability that comes through there. But I think that concludes the end of the actual physical tour itself. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Kiitos. Thank you.